Greetings from Baranovichi, Belarus on this rainy 6th of November morning. And you know, I talk a lot about Belarus, and it's a lot of great things about Belarus. One thing, I'll show you a bad thing. Drainage is not really so good. And here, right by where I live, is a good example of that. You know, unless you can see that. Let me see if I can give you a little bit better perspective. Well, I guess I have to walk a different way. I don't think that's a very good way to walk, so yeah, just to show you that things are not perfect. There's drainage problems in a lot of places here. Like sometimes you'll be walking, and right where you walk onto the street from the, what the British call the pavement, from the sidewalk, you know, there's something like this, you know. I mean, normally not so bad. Actually, this is about the worst place I've ever seen. It just so happens to be by where I live. You know, I've seen people, I don't know, I saw some lady once walking through there, had her shoes off, shoes and socks or whatever, and was walking through there with, you know, barefoot, pants rolled up. Very interesting. A lot of people, kind of one thing I don't like about, you know, you do these vlogs, everybody's looking at you. You know, especially when I'm speaking English, because there's not that many people that speak English, especially as native speakers here in Belarus. So, you know, that becomes really interesting. I don't really see that there's that much of a need for people to teach English really either, because more and more, of course, the West is in decline, and you know, why would somebody want to really speak English? You know, there's going to be a time, probably, you never know, maybe in as short as 5 years, maybe 20, where English is not really going to be in that much demand anymore. Slowly it's going to be fading out, because as the United States, as you see, is in, especially lately, in great decline. You know, it's declining like somebody's cognitive abilities. Wow, you know, isn't that some kind of a parallel? You know, make a parallel with somebody's decline in their cognitive abilities, as well as, you know, compare that to the decline of the country itself. You know, that's kind of a really interesting parallel there. But another parallel I should make. I wrote this down so I wouldn't forget the title, but I saw Alexander Mercouris did this brilliant video, and I maybe normally wouldn't even do a video today, except for the fact that his video was so brilliant. You know, Alexander Mercouris from the Duran, and it was a parallel of the Vietnam War along with the Ukraine War and the United States involvement. You know, how that parallels. And it was just brilliant. You'd have to see it yourself. Oh, it's raining. I wrote some notes. I wrote down what it was, but the ink is all getting smeared now because of the rain. And guess what? My camera's not waterproof either, so I'm doing this for you. But what was it called? It was called Ukraine Facing Defeat. U.S. Sends Military Inspectors. And it was, as I say, it was a parallel to what's going on in Ukraine, along with what happened during the Vietnam Wars. And myself, technically being a historian, I only have a bachelor's degree in history from the University of Washington, but you know, I loved German history more than anything, and I haven't really worked at all in any kind of a historian field, you know, since I got out of the university anyway. I was actually planning and hoping maybe to go to law school, but you know, not all of us have that kind of money to do that, and you know, getting financial aid, you know, everybody told me they got financial aid that says you had to lie. So a lot of people came from families with a lot more money than I did. We're going to school on financial aid, and my father was a Mason, and I couldn't get it. I just applied for it, but anyway, that's how that works. They all told me, you have to lie, you have to lie, you're not going to get financial aid unless you lie. That's how the world works today anyway. You all know that. So, but it's, some of us have this little streak of honesty in us, and we don't really want to be deceptive, but I guess we're going to be the ones that lose. So, but mainly, I guess what I should say is I'd like to thank a lot of people for these great comments. You know, the comments that people write, you know, even on mine with my massive viewership. As a matter of fact, I should say to subscribe, because I forget that all the time. But you know, subscribe. But some of these comments, you know, a lot of people, they come from different backgrounds or have different experiences, or at least have known other people. You know, I'm one of them myself. Person that puts it on the internet maybe hasn't considered or didn't remember, you know, because sometimes when you're young like me, you know, 23 years old, I know I look a lot younger than 23, but you know. But anyway, a long time ago, you know, you kind of sometimes remember some of these news events, and a lot of this does not get recorded down in history, some of the real truths, and it's, you know, when you can add something like that, you know, that's always a very good positive thing. I think I'll try to go over a few of those little incidences here on this video now, even though it's hopefully going to be a short video. I don't like to watch big long videos. Sometimes you don't have the time. But there's one guy, his name is Dojoko, and I think Dojocho, and he's always put a lot of good, interesting facts in there. Seems to be very knowledgeable. That sometimes adds comments on my site. I hope he continues to do so. I like reading his things. But somebody else mentioned something. Yesterday I did a video, and it was a lot about this Enigma machine, what the Germans were using to send secret messages, and how that was, you know, how they broke the code, and, you know, the credit in history books is given to the British, but I had always heard it was a Polish person that broke the code, and then they gave the information to the British. And somebody else made a comment that said in actuality it was the Norwegians. So, you know, that's pretty fascinating too. And as you know, Norway was, I believe, after the Sudetenland, I believe it was the second, or was it Poland? Anyway, but early on in the war, it was one of the places that you know, Germany invaded, you know. But I think it was before Poland, because Germany wanted to secure an oil supply, because you need energy to run a war. You know, that should be something that has some parallels today, when you see that Russia has all the energy. You know, and the USA, Germany, and the West, of course, are shooting themselves in the foot, you know, by, like, I don't know, acting as if they don't need energy, you know. So it makes, I don't know, you know, very odd stuff, very, very odd stuff. Why they would be doing whatever they're doing to Russia anyway, you know, that could be a whole video in and of itself, and a lot of people try to broach that topic. But anyway, as you know, Germany had attacked Norway, and that was the first time they used airborne troops, and it was a real surprise, because nobody could ever envision that you'd be dropping somebody with parachutes from an airplane. And what I had learned, and I believe it's in the book by B.H. Liddell Hart, which is a British historian, and I don't have the access to that book. I don't even know if I have that book anymore. I've moved around a lot. You know, I'm not some rich guy, so I unfortunately, books are very heavy, and I had to lose some very valuable books I really loved in the past. But one of them that I liked about was The History of World War II by B.H. Liddell Hart, and I believe it is in there that I read that right after this invasion of Norway, by using airborne troops, Germany used mannequins. They pushed mannequins out of airplanes around regions of Holland, and since everybody in the world was just so astounded that this airborne troops in Norway, and it took the world by surprise, everybody was in shock. So Germany, did one better, and they pushed dummies out of airplanes around the borders of Holland, and most of the troops, they headed out to these areas believing that they're getting invaded by airborne troops, and of course they were just mannequins. And the real force, Germany, parachuted on Den Haag, which was the capital of the Netherlands, and essentially the hostilities had already started before that, but they had apparently conquered Holland with a very minimal amount of troops, because real troops, I can't even remember, I think the number was like 18 or something like that, 18 things like the 101st Airborne, or whatever, that parachuted on Dane Haag. I'm not saying that the Americans are going to be doing that now with the 101st Airborne that they now have stationed in Romania. And I said that yesterday in a video, and I think it was Scott Ritter that's believing that the 101st Airborne will probably, at some point, if this gets a little bit more hot and it gets escalated, that they're going to send the 101st Airborne in the direction of Transnistria, which I believe at one time was part of Moldova anyway. But I sort of doubt that. The big goal for the United States and Great Britain, of course, is to get the Crimea. So I'm sort of, leaning in that direction. But anyway, that's just speculation anyway. But that's about mostly all of what I wanted to say. But I should add one thing. When Alexander Mercouris was talking about this parallel between the Vietnam War and the Ukraine conflict right now, I don't think he mentioned, I can't remember for sure, that there's an election coming up. Things are different, and they're going to be different, but up till now, there's a lot of parallels. But at that time, very strange time in history, remember, that was around the time of the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And I believe, just like, something that was leaked about Liz Truss saying it's done on her emails, sending it to, I believe it was Lloyd Austin, or to Anthony Blinken in the United States, meaning that, of course, at least everybody suspects it means that the pipelines were blown up, Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2. But President Johnson, at that time, it was, I believe, maybe 1962 or 1963, he's on record as saying, "Make me president and I'll give you your blank damn war." I don't want to use those bad words. I don't like using God's name in vain, so I don't want to say God. So, make me president and I'll give you your blank damn war. So that's very telling. President Johnson was known as using a lot of colorful language. But anyway, that's probably about all I have to say today. And I should say again, like I always forget, subscribe. Subscribe. And I think after this last video, so far only one person has subscribed. And he said the algorithms brought him there. I think he's got a cartoon character as his logo. And he says algorithms brought him there, and he's glad that it did. So I'm happy to hear that, and that's great. So I hope if the algorithms bring this to you, who's watching, that you also subscribe, and I'll try to keep some good content coming. I'll be better whenever I can stop living out of a suitcase, but that might be a long time. Like I said, I have this opportunity to take Russian classes, which means that I can't live where I am projected to live in Minsk, and that apartment would be ready for me to move into it. I would project maybe the end of December, maybe not, maybe end of January. I've mispredicted this many times. I can't tell how fast these workers are going to be working. I think it was if it was in some areas, of course, it would be done in 2 months, but it's been taking many months. 3 quarters or something. It's going to be a year pretty soon. It's going to be probably over a year by the time I'm able to move in. That's in some cases just 2 guys doing all the walls, and then you have 1 person doing plumbing, and 1 person and a helper doing the floors. But you should be excited. You should subscribe just so you can see this apartment. It's called a Stalinka because it was built during the time of Stalin, and normally the quality of anything built during that time was much better than what came afterwards under Brezhnev or something, where they just started using plates of concrete and throwing them up really fast, and then in some extents or some cases they still do that today. But as you see, this building over here is brick. In some, well, I don't know if you can see it, maybe well, anyway, a lot of these are brick, kind of a funny white brick. maybe it's better for insulation. I haven't been here long enough and maybe haven't had as much interest or wanted to put the time into finding out why the bricks in most cases are white. In the building that we're gonna be living in Minsk, it's brown. But anyway, this is all just a bunch of other kind of information. And yeah, but subscribe so that you can see my apartment when it's finished, and whenever that's going to be. So anyway, thanks for watching, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.